We have one goal today. Our one goal is to fully implement something called greedy meshing. However, I don't need to look up how to do this too much because I had already planned it in my head and it just matched one-to-one with what they were saying. So, real quick, let's turn this like all the way fucking down. This one's annoying. Fuck it, stream music. Hold on. Shuffle play. We aren't doing that one. This one works. Alright. So, basically, what we're doing... So, we have to render... let me make it a pencil. We have to render the sides of our boxes, the tops of our boxes, and the other sides of our boxes, right? And there's 6 total faces. But we are doing this en masse. There are hundreds of these boxes, but some of them are going to share a face. And notably, we don't want to do what you would normally do for a square, where every single one is just 2 triangles, and then you have hundreds of sets of 2 triangles. That's way too many goddamn polygons for a voxel thing, right? What's the volume at? Slightly too high. Okay. So, instead, we're going to go through the voxels on each face. So we're going to do this 3 times, just looking at the 3D array that we have, keeping track of where the squares are and where they aren't. And we're going to start at this side and go through all of the layers, doing front and back faces. And then we'll do the same thing top down, doing top and bottom faces, and this way doing left and right faces. Okay? So, first thing, we're going to check to see if there is something in the way. If there's another block here, we're not going to render it. But if there isn't another block here, and there is one here, we know we have to render that face. Okay, and then we're going to check the one below that to see if we have to render that face. If we do, we increase the size of our rectangle to include it, and just make sure we double the tessellation. And we do that all the way down until we have a gap. Then once we have a gap, we will, for this one, check all of the squares next to it. If all of the squares next to it also need to be rendered, we move one over. And it is now wider. So we've made it now not just these 2 squares, but if there's 2 next to it, we'll also include those 2, right? So first pass, we will do bands. So individual bands on each face with the goal, because we're doing this, of 2 polygons per one of these. Okay? Because we are doing more compute power every time we have to re-render everything in order to make the render compute much smaller. So we're doing CPU instead of GPU. It's a trade-off. The other part of this is I think we only have to re-render the ones that are, like, say we add a big, like, stretch of chessboard, right, all at once. We only have to check and re-render all of the polygons that intersect with this fucker. So, good and bad news, that's actually kind of hard. So that isn't part of what we're doing today. Right now, we just want, every time we call the render function, it will get rid of all the existing polygons for the spaces, and then add all of the and then re-render and re-add all of them. So we're doing currently en masse front to back, top down 3, and we'll run it all 3 times. and then it will have all of the faces. And in all, we probably will be able to keep it under 100 polygons for most things. It might be like 200-300, maybe for really complicated boards 1,000, and that is much more reasonable than the fucking few million that we had going. I think it was like 15 million or some shit, 25 million. It is a little frustrating that I don't fully understand how to do the next part after that, but the good news is I don't have to code that yet, so we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. Alright. Now, that being said, here's what we currently have. I can click and drag, and it spawns the top. It doesn't spawn the rest of the sides and stuff, it just spawns the top right now. But notably, it does it seamlessly, right? And currently, the way this works is each of those drags was 2 polygons. So this currently, not counting the base plate, which is its own mess that I should probably fix now that I understand it better. Oh god. Does it matter? I have an extra 30 polygons with the... No. I have 200 polygons for that base plate when it can be 2. That's an optimization where I can remove 198 polygons. We're just gonna make a to-do list. If I'm gonna have this much trouble keeping track of everything, we're gonna make a to-do list. Docs, perfect. Wait, where's pseudocode? There it is. All right. So first thing. Render function for what did I call this block? Because I don't need to do it for all of them. I only need to do it for specifically top slab. Right now I'm only doing top slab, which is really easy. It's either a 1 or a 0. Alright. So render function for top slab. Next I'll do fix base plate from 200 polygons to 2. Okay. And then the next thing I wanted to do was only re-render what's needed rather than everything every time. Because that is going to be a massive CPU draw if we re-render everything every time they place or remove blocks. It doesn't have to be that way. Alright, so we went from only goal today to 3 goals so far. But I can do render function for top slab pretty easy. Alright, first step. Actually, this will probably just all be in a loop. So where do I want this? This is a code organization question now. Oh yeah, I need to be able to see chat. Hold on. Creator dashboard, stream manager. Hello, nobody. Nobody is here. Perfect. Well, I didn't tell anybody I'm here. Fuck. I'll say something in Discord, I guess. Doing render. What did I call this? The game class? Grid array. So I think I need to do it over here in the grid array itself as a render function in here. But the issue I'm having is so, for example, up here I import everything as 3 from 3, and that is what I'm using in order to call the 3JS stuff. But game classes doesn't have that, and I'm trying to figure out. So there is something that happens in C++ if you don't, or there was import and something else in C++ where one would make duplicates and the other one wouldn't. Oh, there's an easy way for me to check this. Yeah, if I go to pointer lock controls real quick in my node modules 3. Yeah. Probably examples, JSM, what's it called? Pointer lock controls? Add-ons? So it's one of the controls. Pointer lock controls. Does this import? Yeah, it imports from 3. Okay, so it doesn't matter. I could just use import. JavaScript does that automatically then. So the concern was in C and C++, if you just did the normal import function, it would create duplicates of all of the variables, and then it would import all of the things you imported again, and then it would cause a reference error. But that doesn't matter here. But it does mean I need to import all of 3 from 3 inside of this. So we'll copy this, go to game classes, go to the top. Oop. Alright, so now we can do 3D shit in here. Okay. But the scene isn't in here, so I will have to have it return a array of all of the polygons and scene.add them. But then I can also drop the array. Okay, so we're gonna call this method render. Just render. And render, what would that... So it's going to return, first thing, we're going to call it planes. So let planes equal this, an empty array. And we're, at the end, we're going to return planes. Okay. And the reason I'm specifically calling it planes is it's literally just an array of all of the planes arranged in 3D space. Oh. Interesting. So now that I'm doing this here, it means standard unit, which is a global variable inside of this one. In fact, it's right... It's really early. Where is it? So this imports a class. I'm going to need standard unit to be... I guess I could just place... like I could copy paste it between the board builder, the game classes, and then later on the play render. This is great because now that the render's in here, I don't have to... Yeah, because I'm not going to be modifying it at all. Interesting. Anyways, let me Control F standard unit. Yeah, this one. Standard unit breaks if you make it too small. Tested set. Because of the floating point errors. It needs to be at least 4 in theory, but I just made it 50. I'm thinking. So, my concern is I will be multiplying the size of the grids by the standard unit. Huh. And I will need to be doing that inside of game classes. Also, when I do play, so this camera stuff that I have going on, so it sets the camera position and all of that, and then down here inside of the controls, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, set controls, this function, which is here. I'm going to need to set the controls again. So when I'm doing the play render, I can just copy paste this function, but that seems inefficient. I guess it's not. Well, no, then if I modify it in one place, I haven't modified it in the other. Okay, we will add that as another to-do list item. Move camera controls to game classes.js. Okay, we'll come back to that. Cheap viewers, fuck you. We are going to instantly ban this dude. Report. That one. Spam bots. It's both. We'll put them down as bots. Advertising view bots. I'm out of coffee. This is a travesty, but it also means I've drank all my coffee. I really need to get more fucking coding time in somehow. I don't even fully understand where my time is going. Alright, render function for top slab. Alright, so this is just dot render. So I need to input old planes. And then, no, I just have to scene dot remove the previous planes and then do the render function and it will just work. So what do I need? I don't need jack shit. It refers to the get blocks and set blocks. Okay, so we have to do this loop 3 times? Sup, Alexander? For it's going to be almost the exact same code. Let's do the very top first. So we're going to need an I, a J, and a K. I guess I could do X, Y, and Z like Gluttony was suggesting. So this function was the last one. Add rollover box. Oh, that's right. I was going to move standard unit here. Right. We'll do that first. We'll do that first. That does also mean we'll backspace this for a moment and come back to it. So I could just make standard unit part of the grid array. Just move it in there. So this would be, so here when I define standard unit here, I can just get it from grid array. Because I already have main grid. So it would be what? Main grid dot get standard unit. And then I just need to put that in the gets. Sets, gets, other. get standard unit. Return. I'm not even going to set it. I'm just going to return 50. That's technically incorrect. Fuck. Where? Oh, it's just called dot array? That's it? Yeah, okay. It's just called array. That's confusing. But I guess it makes sense. Fine. There. Technically, that's correct. It's a little annoying, but now I can refer to standard unit inside of it and not here. Okay, so I did actually need to do that. Cool. That makes my life easier. And since it returns that, with that change, this now works. Cool. Now let's copy this comment from here and put it where it actually gets set now. This does technically mean I can make different standard units for different grids? When would I ever do that? That might be useful one day. That'd be so freaking weird. Okay. So what that would mean, if you ever did it for some reason, is you would have big chessboard, and you would have little chessboard, and you would have really big chessboard, and they would all just be kind of next to each other in the same game. I don't know why you would do that. Maybe you can put the little chessboard onto big chessboard as a piece. I'm hurting my brain. All right, let's get back on track. Let's get back on coding. Hey, look, IJK. Wow. Gluttony was right. I do need this to be X, Y, and Z instead of I, J, and K. Because if I'd make it X, Y, and Z, I won't fuck up the standardization. Later, when I'm referencing my own code. So it works in context of this array, but referencing my code to add to it, it needs to be a bit more standard. What the fuck? You're lucky that those were all the same, Roland. Good fucking check. I just now noticed that. I had accidentally made a mistake in my code previously. So all of these said max X. But because max X, max Y, and max Z are the same for the main grid, the only one I've spawned, I didn't notice. Whatever. Okay. Let's go back down here. Is there anything else that's busted? Well, let's make sure we don't repeat that mistake. Does this need to say this dot max X? Yes, it does. Fuck. Okay. So that means that with any grid, as long as I have this, right? This array set, I can render it. Any grid object I can render. And it will render centered to the origin. Scaled by standard unit. Okay. So this now is going through the X, the Y, and the Z one by one. So let's actually think about what that's doing. So it's going X first. So X 0, 0, 0, and then increases exactly the Z value by 1. And then increase exactly the Z value by 1. And then increase exactly. So it goes through that whole line. And then it does it for every Y. And then it does it for every X. So. And right now this will run a fuck ton of times. Because the current grid is 160 by 160. And it's just going to be comparing ones and zeros that many fucking times. Okay. I guess maybe I can be running all three of the render directions at once? If I'm doing it this way? So I would start by only doing the top. So if this dot array it needs to not be capitalized. X, Y, Z, not S, Z, is exactly equal to 1. So we're checking to see if this exact X, Y, Z is a block or not. If yes, we do a thing. If no, we ignore it. Because we don't have to render it if it's not a block. And now we're going to add a plane. So we need plane geometry. We need texture and geometry, and there was, yeah, texture, material, geometry. You use the texture to make the material. So because I'm doing this way, all of my textures need to be put inside of this. As well as the texture loader. Alright, so we're going to... This is the part where we start breaking the old code. And we also... So... Space plane we can yoink. Okay. And we also need the materials. Interesting. Alright. And then we had this function, the add rollover box function, where we made the rollover group visible, and then we add rollover square, but that uses spaceplane, right? Doesn't it? Yeah, because add rollover square, this used spaceplane. Okay, so... Oh, and this uses standard unit. Okay. So we will do this inside of the constructor. For main grid, for grid array. And then we need a get for spaceplane. And this needs to say this dot standard unit. Interesting. Because I'm going to use the fuck out of this, so I know I need it. And then we'll say const spaceplane equals main grid dot get space. I'm trying to question if this is a good idea, putting spaceplane and standard unit inside of main grid. I think the answer is yes. At the very least, this is the easiest way to modify the existing cone to use it in both places without confusing myself. Readability might be more important than other factors, and I could just reuse the fuck out of this. Alright, so I set spaceplane here, I set standard unit here. Cool. And we already have the 3 stuff and the 3 stuff. Okay. Because we imported it in both places. Hopefully that doesn't break. I don't know if it will. I hope it doesn't. Only one way to find out. Don't panic. Just do the thing. Alright. We have this. We have this. Cool. Alright, so if it's 1... Alright, here's the part where I need to go from here on. I will be using the prototyping function that I did before, that I was calling, not roller box. On pointer up, build spread toggle, place space. That was the function. The function was called place space. This one. Right. Alright, so what's the part I need from this? So, place space will now do this, and then remove the old one and then set the new one. But we'll come back to that. For now, these 2 textures. All of this texture stuff, I need to have we'll come back to that. Hold on. I'm using Space Geo instead of Space Plane? Isn't this exactly the same? Spaceplane is that. Space Geo is that. Yeah, they're the same. Okay. That's important. I need to do this. I'll do it inside of the constructor even. Yeah. Hold on, I just changed something. Rollover Geo is equal to space. Okay. So add rollover square does this, and then it... Right, I separated plane from geo. Okay. We're not doing this. But I will have to fucking rotate. There's more going on than I can keep track of in my head. Hold on. Alright. It does have to be rotated before it's added to a mesh. That is true. But everything that I do to Spaceplane inside of this will be done permanently and then get output for Spaceplane. because it's effectively a global variable. If I return the spaceplane, it doesn't set it. It doesn't change the class. But the render function will do everything inside of it, so it will reset it. I guess I can get around that by... resetting spaceplane to this, a new plane geometry at the end of the function to make sure it's still the same. Okay, fine. I'll do this right before I return the planes to make sure that it is unchanged before something else gets the spaceplane. It just resets it. I can modify it however I want now without fucking with it. Which means I can now this.spaceplane dot rotate. And it was negative math dot pi over 2. Alright, so now it goes from the weird vertical to flat. Now the next fun part. So this is the rollover square one. But on this one, there it is. The space geo gets rotated, so same thing. And then the new mesh uses the geometry and the material. Okay, so I need to figure out this material part. So I figure out min x, min y, and min z up here before I add the thing. I don't think that matters for this. Yeah, this, I will need it. So I will need a different way to decide between this and this, but I will still need these materials. And then I have to shift tab these so that I don't lose my mind. Because this is a constant and it will not change, I can move these to the top of this with these. One thing at a time. This needs to stay the same, this needs to stay the same for both of them. So this will go up here. Shift tab twice. So textures, materials. These are technically textures. I accidentally hit Control B again. So all of my textures, all of my materials. Let me scroll down, look at this again. I need to copy this part. Rotate the geometry, not the mesh at first. Make sure that I keep that as something worth noting. because that was something to avoid. Alright, so now we have this, now we have this, now we have this, now we make the mesh. And we'll use this dot space. Cool. Alright, so now we have the mesh, which is that. Alright, so I need to change how I do this. I think... When do I assign it to which? Oh, I have to do this inside of the for loop. Right. Specifically on the Y. And the reason for that is that's also where this needs to be. Which that will make sense in a sec. I'm specifically doing it on the Y value. Because that will determine when it's which. I think? Am I wrong? I am wrong. Right, because the corner won't always be at 0, 0. Okay. Oh, so it is the same god. Hold on. How do I determine when min... Alright, so I also have to keep track of min x, or max z and min y. But I don't have the min x, max z, or min y done. Oh, right. I need to change these variable names inside of this if statement. Because I'm using max x, max y, and max z to talk about the entire grid, not the individual square. Okay. I'm using the bathroom. I'll be right back. Yeah, that's fine.
What did Gus pay his mutant?
Alright, I'm back. Oh, Jeremy Fenderson. I freaking love this guy. Here you go. Support the original creator. Alright. This particular dude, Jerobeam, a lot of his music videos are badass. They're oscilloscope music. So if you pass the music into an oscilloscope, the electric signal, it plays the music video. And then he has just YouTube videos of exactly that. Alright, so so I need to rename these 3 variables. Because I was doing it this way. Right. And then everything from here to here. And this I don't need to delete, because this will still be the same. And then this is what actually sets the blocks. And this function will still exist. Okay. Min x, min y, and min z are easy. They're 0 in this case. So that's not what I need here. Oh, right. This is the single. So this is the minimum x for the single space. Single max z, single min y. Mod 2 is equal to 1. Then we set space material this one or this one, depending. And then we get to make the space mesh. Okay. So I actually feel like I need to do this here. One layer back. Hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't know when and how exactly I need to do this yet. Let's comment this out for a sec and like go to the pseudocode and walk through what I have to do. So move standard unit to game classes. We did that. Render function from top side. Alright, so we are here right now. So I need to make the square, which is just the mesh, right? Then I need to make the square with proper textures, right? And so I have to check that the square itself has the correct texture when I make it. So whenever I make the square is when I have to do that. So we'll do that all together. Then I need to... Alright, so first step then is check if face is exterior to the overall structure. Check if the face is exterior. So is a block and that face is not facing the block. So check if the face is exterior, which, so I'm currently only checking if it's a block. Okay, so one thing I haven't decided yet. Oh, this is going to be for the top first. So top of block. All right, so I'm gonna have to do this 3 times. Top and bottom. Let's only do top first. Okay. Make the square with the proper textures. If next space is exterior, so space x plus 1. So we're just going to do, so we have to check x and z. So we're going to be doing all of the y's separately as different layers. So we actually need, that's important to note, these two are backwards. The y needs to be the main one because we're going y value. So this is going to break temporarily. Cool. Alright, so for each y value, go through the thing on every x and every z. Okay. Check if the face is exterior. Make the square with proper textures if... Alright, so do that. And then make the square with proper textures. Okay. If next x space is exterior, extend the square by 1 standard unit in the x direction. Continue until interesting. Continue until so period. The next x space is not exterior. If all z space, so we'll only do that for now. So this will be strips of individual rectangles. So and that should work all the way down with those strips. Okay. So now we have a function that will work. So we're going to make this and we're going to test exactly this. So only doing it on the top of the squares and only doing the individual X strips all the way down. Okay. Alright, first thing, check if the face is exterior. So I've checked that it's a block. And this will be not facing another block one of two ways. Either because y is equal to max y, which is this dot max y. Y is exactly equal to this dot max y. Or okay, so I only need to check this dot array sometimes. Hold on. So my problem is this dot array. So maybe I should run get block? Or alright, so let me try that. Can I call another method inside of a method? Can I call another method inside of a method JavaScript? Perfect. So I just have to use this dot. And this dot get block x comma y comma z. We're going to do y plus 1 is not exactly equal to 1. Actually is exactly equal to 0. Because there's going to be more types of blocks to make it exterior. Alright, so if it's max x, so it's the very top layer, or if it's not the top layer and the y above it is not a block, so is 0, which is, check notes, empty. Cool. And I will have to append this this little or parentheses every time I have a incomplete block in the y direction to check. That's notable. It's not a huge deal. That's a problem for future roll. Okay. Alright, so we checked if it's exterior. Now we make the square with the proper texture. Alright, so single min x, single max z, single min y. Alright, so how do I get the min x, min y, and max z? It will just be... So I'm starting at... So max z will keep incrementing? Oh, am I stupid? It's freaking mod 2. It should always work. But I just... So my problem is it starts the tessellation of the repeating texture not from X and Z being 0, but from Z being the largest point. Can't I just... Am I stupid? If I rotate Y by negative, or by math.pi over 2. If I rotate Y by math pi over 2. Let me make sure. It's either negative or positive math pi over 2, doesn't matter. The result is not identical. And I would have to figure that out by trial and error. Ah! So I will make this X, Y, and Z for now. But I'm going to have to come back and fix this. Come back and trial and error the tessellation to properly match intention. Max Z min X. Alright, that should be everything I need to fix that, but I'm going to have to, I get the feeling I'm going to have to rotate the plane about the y-axis, and then I can use XYZ normally. And if that's the case, by rotating the geometry, okay. So I'll take this dot space plane, rotate it about the y, and then do everything else. So I'm actually, so this, everything here will work. So you see this part where I have a const space mesh equals new space mesh, or new mesh? I'm going to need to add these to a group. Right, I'm only doing the strips for now. I'm not doing the additional ones. Whoever said this was going to be easy was wrong. Okay. Now that I've gotten that out of my system, back to this. for if let. If else const. So make the square with proper textures. Now I check if the next x base is exterior and extend by 1 standard unit in the x direction. Continue until the next x base is not exterior. So this will be a while loop that will be also using, oh boy. So check if the next array is the, yeah, this will be an iterating while loop that's checking the exact same thing. Check if the next block is the exterior, and we're doing it in the x direction, so x plus 1. X plus 1. And at the end of it, it will x plus plus. And it will keep doing that. And what it's doing is... oh, okay, so this is a 3JS question now. Documentation. I need to figure out, I've already made the mesh, right? Yeah. How to change the size of a mesh. It's dot scale, right? But I'm not trying to scale by a multiplier. I'm trying to add an increment. Let's just look at the methods in mesh. Docs. Mesh. These are materials. Mesh. More specifically, I think I would need plain mesh. Plain geometry. I can probably set okay, I can use this to keep track of the number of times it iterates with a new variable. So num extensions. Let num extensions equal 0. And then every time it... oh, I have to let num extensions equal 0 outside of this. So right before the lock loop. And then num extensions plus plus. So I'm not iterating by the scale anymore. I'm counting the number of extensions. And then at the end, I space mesh dot scale x. Mesh. an object 3D, so it gets all of these. The one I'm looking for is scale. But it's just straight dot scale. And it's a vector 3. So that's XYZ, I guess. So num extensions plus 1, comma 1, comma 1. Because X, Y, Z. Okay. Why do you say you don't exist? I did the T again? How does that keep happening? Extensions is spelled with an S. I don't like this. Does this return the scale? Alright, so these are properties. Right, so where are the methods? Here. So dot scale is just wrong. Translate, traverse, update matrix, world to local. That was so helpful. Let's look at geometry again. And we're specifically looking at plane geometry. Methods. See the buffer geometry for common methods. So I'm supposed to do all of this to the geometry first before making the mesh. Okay. Control C. That's fine. So we'll do it down here. So I check all of this and then I make the mesh. In theory, I guess that means I should do all of the geometries first, count the number of times I do it, and then do an instance mesh of them. Nope. No, maybe. Hold on. It would be very difficult to keep track of the material if I'm doing two different materials. But the thing is, I don't need to do two different materials. It's the same way I'm fixing it here. I could just rotate about the y-axis with the one material. I'm very hungry. I need to make food. What am I making for food? Classic ramen plus soup plus canned chicken all in the same bowl, I guess. Fuck. Alright, so let me switch to one texture for space material. Rotate as appropriate. Alright. I'm currently doing that, because I'm only doing the X direction. Mac and cheese? Not an awful idea. I can make instant mash. That might be good. I would be putting it in my soup with my chicken. Actually, yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be making mashed potatoes and putting it at the bottom of a bowl after I make the mashed potatoes. Then put soup on top of it and chicken on top of that. Now cook it all. Excellent. The things I have to do because money is tight. Alright. So this is incorrect. Dot scale is not the way to do that. So / scale the space by num extensions plus 1. In the X direction by num extensions plus 1. I can make an is exterior function. No. Yes? That might make this easier. I'll think about it. Because that would just be this thing that I copy paste. And it's just, is exterior yes or no? Yeah, I should do that. Is exterior. If, because I'm going to use the fuck out of this all the time, right? Okay, here's the problem. It will save this. It's an extra function call, basically, rather than doing it inside of this. Does that matter? I'm going to be using this a lot, so I need, I'm going to be using it a lot, but it cares about directionality, so it's going to be different whether it's X, Y, or Z. So it would be is exterior X, is exterior Y, is exterior Z, and then separately call those functions. And arguably Y is different top, bottom. I guess I'll just do it manually in each call inside of the render loop. But it's going to make the render loop, well, this if statement isn't fantastic. Same this one, the while. So while the next one's exterior, keep track of the extensions and increase the X. Oh, right. I do the X before the Z. So I need to do this in the Z direction. On this exactly. Does that matter for this? No. Does that matter for this? No. It does matter for this. This needs to be not X plus 1, but z plus 1. Because this is the z direction right now. And then we z plus plus. Because otherwise we would be skipping entire sets of x when we don't want to do that. Hi, Gluttony. I am manually implementing greedy mesh right now. To be more specific, so currently, let me turn this music down a little bit more. Currently, I am iterating through a 3D array, so XYZ, right? And starting from the bottom Y, I go along each of the X and Z's, and I check to see if there's a square there. Then I check to see if the top of that block is an exterior. I'm actually trying it too as an exercise. Fair. Then once I know that the top of the block is exterior, I am then checking the next block to see if that one is also exterior, and if so, I extend the mesh in that direction. And then I do that through all of... I'm actually doing that in the Z direction. Sorry. I'm doing that until the next block is not an exterior block. And right now, I'm going to only be doing it in those strips, and then checking to see if everything I've done works. So I'm not going to extend in the X direction yet, I'm only doing Z strips. And I'm only doing it on the top of the block right now. Then I'm going to add, after I get that done, the next steps. Yep, sounds like 3D meshing. Exactly. Anyways, let me turn the volume back up. There was something that I was looking at. Alright, so is the next space exterior? Yes, no. If yes, increase num extensions by 1, iterate the Z, and then this part. This is what I was looking at, how to scale the space, which I specifically need to do it to the geometry. Which is why I had this open. Okay. I don't need to look this up. I have it in Board Builder already inside of Rollover Mesh. So add rollover box, all the rotates, all the positions, all the grooves. So it's in rollover square where I do the scaling. Right. So where's that function? This one. Rollover geo equals space plane. Where am I scaling the size of it? There's where I rotate, there's where I set the position. scene.add. Am I done? Let me look up rollover group real quick. I made it global, so I probably am doing something inside the render loop to it. Yeah, those are the dot positions. Dot scale dot x. And it's doing it to the whole group, which means I can do it to the mesh. Okay. So I can just do it after making the mesh. Just build the rectangle the right size from the start? You're right. I should do that. Okay. Yeah, this was done. Alright, so we're going to undo some previous stupidity and do that. Space plane. Boop. And then we're going to delete that. And that. And that. Cool. Right, and then I'm not doing this here. I'm doing it here. So let spaceplane equal this, and then this will be the X and this will be the Z, I believe. I actually don't know. Oh, I don't know which of these is which. So it's just num extensions plus 1 times this dot standard. And this not starting at 1 is a readability optimization because of what I named this. But it is an extra calculation. I could remove it. Alright. So I make a space mesh. And I'm currently not positioning it, so I now need to position the space mesh. Right? Yeah. And then scene dot, well, so planes is in this right now? How do I make a group? Hold on. I did it over in the board builder. Specifically in rollover group. New 3.3. So let planes equal New 3-dot group. And we'll just return the group at the end. Easy day. And then I can add the children. Sweet. Okay. Instead of making square and then moving it and scaling it, just build a rectangle the right size from the start. Not what I mean. Position each triangle individually. This does the same thing. So it's using the existing 3-dot mesh infrastructure. So what would that be? Is there just a triangle geometry? Wireframe geometry? No. It's almost the same result. It's going to result in the same number of polygons in the exact same positions to do it as pairs using plane geometry. And then I need to add to the group. So, how did I add to the group last time? So I do need to do some positioning real quick, right here. Planes dot position dot x equals this dot max x over 2. Alright, so now it will actually be centered at the center. Does that make sense? No, I'm going to position each square individually, so this would actually move everything. Okay. I have to iterate through it in my mind, mostly because I don't have the practice yet. You can position each texture on a triangle individually, which means you don't have to have separate texture for each size top. So, I also don't have... You're talking about using UV mapping for it? Rather than just making separate instances of each texture for each thing? Alright, here's a self-upgrade. What is UV mapping? Because I have an idea of what it is, but I don't know rigorously. Because, quite frankly, I am still only making the texture once. It is going to be this texture right here, right? For the top of the block. I don't know the overhead cost of using multi-textures, maybe it's fine. So I would only be using a second one, but I already discovered I don't need this second one because I could just rotate it 90 degrees at the start. If it's based on where the grid is positioned, right? And by rotating it 90 degrees appropriately, I don't need the second one, which is what I already said. Frazzled. So it's this texture, and then I'm just using it and applying it to the squares. So it's, yeah, here. This material uses this texture. Hold on, I'm missing a step. I have a texture, but I haven't made the material. Space material AA. Where's my material? Oh, there it is. Right, I was... Okay. I have to use the bathroom again. Basically, you tell each corner of a triangle where on the texture line the corner is, and the GPU will interpolate the texture between those points. Interesting. Oh, and that's why you can have one giant picture for it. So, right now I'm using texture wrapping because it repeats, right? So if the I'll say, I think the stuff you're talking about is already automated by 3JS for the most part. That's what all of this is right here, right? So it loads the texture, it applies repeat wrapping, and I set it to repeat in both X and Z directions. And then it applies it to both triangles. So I don't think that it's worthwhile for me to manually implement that. In other words, it always applies the whole texture to the whole rectangle. I'm trying to think of a reason I wouldn't want it to always apply the whole texture to the whole rectangle. So if you didn't manually rescale the texture by setting a repeat number, it would stretch the texture. So it would be 2 by 2 for any size of rectangle. Yes, but that's what this part does. This sets the repeat to, well, repeat. That's why you need a new texture for each rectangle. So it sets the repeat based off of the size of the plane that it's applied to, right? Oh, I didn't set X length and Z length up here. Oh, right. So I will have to change this inside of here each time. Thank you. But it'll still be the same texture. Oh, but that's a global. Which is why it was updating every time I was... Hold on. But it wasn't happening. Like when I do this here, it works. Because I was doing it separately each time. You're right, I was doing an individual texture every single time. In order to prevent exactly the thing you were talking about right now. Okay. By the way, I haven't Control F5 to this. This is still old. It will break when I Control F5 it and not work anymore. Because it's using the create a square when I click and drag. Rectangle, whatever. It will rechange it for all rectangles. Yeah, which is why I was making the texture individually for each. And would, in this case, have to move all of this inside of my loop. So the question is, do I need to learn UV mapping to prevent that? I don't know, is the issue. So moving to the reason I moved to greedy meshing is I verified that I would have a optimization issue that would cause problems. So the question is, do I move to UV mapping instead of texture wrapping or not? I don't know if I need to. But every single time so far that I've come to a thing that I barely understand and realize I could use it to make it better, and then I sit down and I don't do it, because I'm like, maybe I don't need that. I've ended up needing it. I've ended up needing to know the thing. Matrix multiplication, frickin' the greedy mesh algorithm. That's another example. I'm not thinking of it off the top of my head, but I have the feeling of it. What is it? What have I done so far? Quaternions. I had to learn what quaternions are. Let's look at 3JS again. UV. Alright, so I don't have a direct thing for this that I can apply to the plane geometry. Let me look at plane geometry, or mesh basic. Let me look at just the material class. So the material pulls from the texture. Okay. Let's look at this one. Define texture wrapping mode. UV mapping is a default, and it maps the texture using the mesh's UV coordinates. So I guess that would mean, so the mesh has UV coordinates. Let me look at the mesh again. Which one am I doing? Mesh basic? Mesh standard, one of those? Mesh standard. Control F, UV. Light map uses UVs, AO map uses UVs. Okay, so it's just talking about a second set of UVs. I'm kind of going in circles a bit, but give me a sec. Does it not let me set the UV at all? Let me look back at values or properties. And then later was meshes. Geometry.set UV new 3 buffer attribute new float array this texture coordinates. So we need to look at buffer geometry is what you're saying, at least in part. Buffer attribute? Buffer attribute. UVs and any custom attributes. Array typed array used to instantiate the buffer. It's associated with a buffer geometry. New float 32 array, this texture coordinates. Attribute UV. So this is in the geometry. Set attribute. So this is all of the attributes, and it uses set attribute and get attribute. Rather than accessing directly, use set attribute and get attribute to access the geometry. Okay. Hash map is an ID of the name of the attribute to be set, as well as the value in the buffer to set. So I'm setting attribute in the geometry to the new buffer attribute, which is that. From the decal sheet. Okay, that's relatively simple. So your float 32 array. You just did greedy meshing? Nice. Good job. Now I'm going to continue to fumble through it for the next, like, 5 hours. It only does strips? Yeah. That's what I'm starting with, too. The Z part is a little bit harder. So I'm trying to figure out why there's a float 32 array this texture coordinates, but I'm also set attribute UV. So buffer geometry has different attributes. Yeah, set attribute position, new 3 buffer attribute, vertices 3. Alright, so this is a typed array. Item size num vertices. Create a simple square shape, we duplicate top left and bottom right vertices. Oh. So if I make a buffer geometry, that's just a triangle. Or mesh line or point geometry. Base indices, normal colors, UVs, and custom attributes within the buffer. Okay, so I make the buffer geometry. I could set the attribute. In this case, specifically UV. This one would be position. Oh, wow. Okay. Is there a list of attributes? Types of attributes I can grab? Huh. Maybe in buffer geometry, it has the list of the different attributes. All right. You only care about position and UV for now? That's true. I'll be right back. I have to use the bathroom real bad. So, UV, right? UV mapping. it's... So when I'm setting the UV, this dot texture coordinates for a new float 32 array. Okay. This is index buffer geometry. Turn on the wireframe. There's the normal and there's the color. Three dot float 32 buffer attributes. Okay, hold on. What the fuck? Hop on your mic and walk through what you discovered while writing this. You know what? Yeah, sure, I'll listen. Assuming you don't mind me streaming your voice. One sec while I get a headphones. I can't do that easily. Never mind. No headphones. So I just have to keep my mic away from my speakers to try to prevent echo. Pyramid matchups are gonna look weird. Yes. Alright, let me mute my music so we have less auditory noise. You are muted on Discord, specifically. So what did you discover?
Does it work now?
Yeah, it works now.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, good. I forgot to allow it. So, I can probably send the code, just normal. Wait. So, I use oh.
Say again. I'll turn my computer volume up a bit because I already have you maxed out on Discord.
use, I hope. You know, basic.
Oh, you posted it here. Okay. Let me grab it. May as well. Source and right. Let me open this with. Well, first of all, assets. It's a funny texture.
Yeah, I didn't put much effort into the texture. It wasn't really the point.
No, I get you, but it's still funny. Let me. Okay, so these are only .js files. All right, that's fine. So you just made a normal this dot vertices, this dot texture coordinates.
The crooked texture helps a little bit with debugging because I knew which way the texture was oriented. So it wasn't actually nothing.
Huh.
But anyway, I don't know if you look at the code, but if you
Yeah, I have it open.
you to look at the geometry builder,
Let me see
then I just made a sort of I have unused material where I have that it's just a little helper class that stores all the vertices and texture coordinates, and you can see how I set the attributes. I also did a method that takes the position and UV in the same function, so they are always synchronized. This helps me prevent, putting more UV coordinates than positions or some nonsense like that. You just put it into a normal array, and then when I press build, I, convert it into geometry.
Okay.
How you do that? And I can.
So here, I will share screen on Discord so you can see what I'm asking more directly and not have to deal with the delay of Twitch. So let me open each of these. VS Code. VS Code. Okay.
The code is not very nice yet. It's the proof of concept, but this is just sort of a great representation. I added one function for example so that I manually because I don't have your coded stuff.
Yeah.
Oops. I didn't want to bother with that, so I just made it programmatically. So this is actually, I believe it's Pyramid versus Medieval.
Okay. And you just quickly made a 3D array for that. Okay. Example 1. So I'm trying to parse your code at the moment so I can...
Oh, I didn't send you the index code. I see. That's the issue.
Oh, yeah.
The HTML I didn't send. Yeah, sorry. But the HTML doesn't have anything, too interesting. But obviously it's important too. I send it now.
Oh, right. Okay, hold on. I'm being dumb. Let me move this here.
The whole project, I don't know why.
Frickin'.
I know, right, because I didn't want to send node modules because it's just wasted space because you can treat it, you already have it. And if you wanted to try it, you could download it. So, but yeah, I mean,
I already have my
didn't-
node modules fine. It should all be there. I just have to fight with this just a little bit. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, so this needs... I have to get your stuff open in my my test environment server.
But I mean, you don't necessarily need to open the HTML in browser. I mean, you can just look at the code. Or, I mean, if you want to see the result, it's basically what I already posted in the email.
Mm-hmm. Let me actually look at your index HTML.
Oh, well, that it's not gonna open because I forgot nothing else. I mean, I don't see anything else that would be missing, but it's possible.
Hold on. And of course this. Import map, 3 modules.
By the way, I only did it for the tops. I didn't do the other direction. So the other directions are the all done.
Oh, so you only did the top down? Okay.
But yeah,
So
only
my biggest confusion is the add vertex function. It
so vertex is a point in space,
okay.
and basically every triangle is made of 3 vertices.
Right.
So what
Okay.
I do, you usually just create plane and position it. What I do is I just put X, Y, and Z, what I already need for each triangle, and you need to put 3 vertices. And you don't have to separate them. You just every 3 vertices you put is one triangle, and then the next 3 is going to be next triangle, right? And when I have a face, I've already created and let's say X position 250, Y position whatever 50, like some concrete number, and I don't have to position it again through the scale to the rotation and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I already positioned them exactly where I need them, and then I add UV because that's just for the texture, basically. Where in the texture I wanted the triangle to fit, and does that explain it or?
Okay, so where are you calling add vertex? That's in
Oh yeah, okay. So it's gonna be in grid render.
grid render? Okay. So you add vertex for top and you pass in geometry builder. Let's walk through this. Because I think that's what I was missing when I was just trying to stare at it. Alright, so you make the geometry builder. New geometry builder, which is this class. Okay.
I basically pass it to other functions, so it just accumulates, and it's all one geometry. All the tops are one geometry. It doesn't need to be more because the UV and the positions deal with everything else. So I don't need to rotate it manually and stuff like that. It's already positioned, so I can just make it as one geometry. Maybe theoretically, split it into multiple geometries. It's just my preference, I guess. I don't know if it's better for performance of super geometries, maybe it is. And that's
So this dot add vertex for top.
So I have a lot of helper functions to help me organize the code. So this is just a helper function. Probably somewhere down.
Create sides.
Yeah, it's way down, way down. You can control click on method to find where it's okay, or like that, I guess. So yeah, if you now control click on add vertex, it should move you to the definition of the add vertex. At least not work. Oh.
Well, it's because the add vertex was in the grid.js, right? Or not?
Oh, okay. Probably doesn't.
In
Oh yeah,
Geometry Builder. It's here, right?
Links. Okay, never mind.
It's in the class.
Okay, so here basically what I do is I take down. I work only with coordinates, not specifically positions, as in like 225 or whatever. I just do indexes of the cubes, so for a long time until the final rendering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So my biggest confusion that I'm having is, so you, inside of Geometry Builder, add vertex is stop push the texture coordinates X, Y, Z in the UV. Okay. That is the act of doing UV mapping. But
yeah,
I'm not sure what it means to add a vertex entirely. So
So vertex is a point. So adding vertex is adding points to the geometry, and every 3 points is one triangle. So essentially, it's
okay.
adding a vertex is adding 1/3 of a triangle. That doesn't make sense, but
okay. So
I'm adding a point of a triangle. You can see that I have 6. Never mind.
So this dot push. Okay, so you are pushing the vertices coordinates to the triangle, and then you're also pushing the texture coordinates at the same time.
Yeah, in a different array, because they are linked. They are not linked specifically. They are only linked by their position. So first 2 UV coordinates are to the first point, and first 3 vertices are, or position numbers are for the first point. And
okay,
you know, every three numbers is 1 point. Every 3 set of 3 numbers is 1 triangle, sort of.
And then it matches them 1-to-1 to the texture coordinates to that point of the triangle. So for example, if you have X, Y, and Z are 0, 0, 0, that would just be the position of that point in 3D space. And then the UV being 0, 0 would be the bottom left of the texture, right?
Right.
Okay. So for the UV coordinates, does it go like 0 to 1 or something? Like 1 would be the max?
Okay, so what I do here is maybe, I don't know if I should call it trick, but theoretically, yeah, 0 is the start of the texture, lower left corner of the texture. 1 is top right corner, but you can actually go over that. You can, for example, make 1.5, and it will just go beyond the texture, and depending on the setting of the texture, it will either clamp it to the last color, the texture.
Okay.
So if, for example, you had a texture that goes from red to blue, and you went over the texture, it would just be blue. Or in this case, which is more interesting, if it repeats it, it will just repeat it. So if I go with 1.5, it will actually go back to half. So I don't have to even calculate. I could theoretically calculate everything to 0 to 1, but I just don't bother. I just have my coordinates, UV coordinates, like 5, 12, whatever, and the repeating will just handle the problems for me.
So, for example, right, if we just look at this square here, this rectangle that I just made was 11 tall, right? So the either the U or the V for that would be 11 divided by 2, so 5.5, and then it would repeat it that way. I don't know which one's the U and
One
which
way to
one's the
do it.
V.
But
So-
in my code, it would actually be like maybe 10 and 15 and a half, right? It would already be shifted. I shift everything from the point of origin. That deals with, that works because it's repeated. I just imagine the text as one texture that goes from 0 to, in your case, 160. I just position the vertices. I sit on the texture, and I never start at 0, 0 unless the cube also starts at 0, 0. But you can.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's the difference. So this bottom left texture, right, would be from 0, 0, whatever it is, to here would be the UV for this bottom corner. But the next vertex would be increased by 5.5. Not 11, it would be 5.5. More than the previous U. And then the V's would be the same because they're aligned 1 to 1. Oh, and that allows you to do all of your texturing directly. Interesting. Okay. Well, now I know how to UV map something. Thank you. Next thing that you did is... This was your example. Let me open up... Yeah, this picture that you sent real quick. All right, so... And you were only doing it in strips, but now you're not. So I would assume this would be a strip, this would be a strip, and then this one would go all the way to here? Or would it stop here?
Do you want to see roughly, well, I mean, it's not very nice, but how it looks with only half of the triangles? I mean,
Yeah, that would be perfect.
It demonstrates sort of how the...
Yeah, it's rotationally symmetric. Okay, so you did it this way. Oh! Yeah, that tracks. So it goes up and then all the way over to here. All right, so you're checking this direction first. So there, but then the next one.
In my code,
okay.
It goes from left to right. It increases to the right, and Z increases towards camera, right?
Yeah.
So first I'm going in the increasing in X direction, and then I'm going increasing in Z direction. And the sides are not relevant. They are done in a down algorithm. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's
and
to go.
Specifically, you start from this side. I see that too, because of the back of the pyramid means you did this one first, and then you went down and did this one, then this one, then this. Interesting. Okay. You're right. The pyramid is going to look kind of weird. Is the pyramid right up? It is, isn't it? And it's 7 wide too.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it is correctly. Yeah, probably you could scale Y coordinates by only like maybe 1/3 or 1/2, so it's not that big. but I don't know. This is definitely gonna mess with your calculation.
It's fine,
Like,
honestly.
don't.
There's things we can do later. So one thing I could do later, for example, is instead of having these be normal blocks, if I wanted Great Pyramid to look better, I could add a, and this comes down to my current implementation here in game. So my 3D array keeps tracks of different types of blocks as well, right? So I could add a block that has a sloped, like chamfered edge, and then one that does that on the corner as well. And then using that, I could round out the edges and make Pyramid not look as rough as it does in this render. And
Well, I
that's...
think the main issue is the verticality, right? This is very high. I mean,
It is. If it was half slabs, it also wouldn't feel that bad. Which, implementing half slabs is already intended. It's just not MVP anymore.
depending on how you program it, it might be extremely easy or not, I guess. But
Oh, it should be easy because, like, for half slabs, I would just have one block ID for half slab on the bottom, one block ID for two half slabs stacked on top of each other, and another one for a half slab just on the top, right?
well, I mean, that's what I meant. In my program that I only work with coordinates and only ever use specific units in the final rendering step. So I could just, multiply the y, not by standard unit, but by standard unit divided by 2, and then it would easily just, half all the, granted it would also make the level 0 half as high, but I don't
Yeah, it would. And it is perfectly reasonable to do things that way. The only reason I decided not to do half slabs for everything was future proofing for some of the other stuff that I am going to be doing. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's 7 wide and the 5x5. Okay. So, one of the things I'm going to have to be doing is I have to do this render loop, or not render loop, but this render function where I add things to the scene once for each set of each of these individual IDs, right? I will have to go through and check each of these IDs in the grid and then render those ones separately as one group with that texture.
Yeah, probably. But good thing is that you only need to do this split meshing algorithm when you first load it or when you add or remove a cube. You don't have to do it.
So,
By the way, before I forget, I did notice one issue that you might also face, and it might be interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
So, you load textures here. You don't really wait for the texture to be loaded. Which is fine, but because you need the texture when you click, which takes some time, and by the time you click, it's already loaded. But I did it by code, so it was immediately ready. Well, not ready. It was immediately rendering the texture. The texture was ready, and it just didn't render it. I believe it was either black or see-through. I don't remember. But it's just something you might face once you start loading safe positions, that if you face this problem is because the texture is not loaded yet and you need to wait for it.
Oh, okay. Interesting. When you say need to wait for it, what exactly do you mean? Like, what's causing it to not be loaded yet? Is it just time? Is it just lag?
So, I mean, it's asynchronous. So, first of all, the browser always runs in one thread. I mean, there are exceptions, but your code will run in one thread. So it will have to finish before it starts loading the textures. But also, the loading of the textures doesn't block the other code. So it's asynchronously done. And until that happens, you won't you don't have them. But the function or the method loads texture accepts a callback, which is essentially a function that you can provide it that will be called once the texture is fully loaded. And so you can wait for that. But I mean, you don't have to worry about it now. It's just something for the future.
Okay. Oh, and you did it all in the initial function for the HTML. Okay.
Yeah. So what I did, I provide a function to the load, and then I call render. I only call it once because I don't make changes to it, and I only call it once it's loaded.
Yeah. Alright, so this is your script. So this is when you do the texture, and then here you, before you do that. I see. So the way you did this, you render out everything, but the texture isn't added until after?
No, I only add like lightning and camera and the helper grades. This is copied from their example, by the way. A lot of
Yeah,
it.
but you do the initialization before the render anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, this initialization is fine. It's just that because I don't need to do texture for it. But then I have another function called render that actually renders the chessboard, and that's only called once the texture is loaded.
Yeah. Okay. That's just ordering. Thank you. I really need to find a way to get more actual coding done per hour, because like what I really need is more time to code. But right now, until the end of November, I don't have that. So I guess I'll just have to kick up the time at the end of November. Because part of it is, even though I understand what's going on and I'm slowly beating my face through the ability to program all of this, it's very slow.
Yeah, I get it.
Because I'm new to this, or relatively new. I've been coding for 4 years, but I'm still new,
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, especially for a new library you've never seen. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually was kind of lucky because I learned some basics of graphical rendering in school. I mean, I haven't used it in practical, like in my work at all, but at least I sort of remember some basics, so that helps me a bit.
Yeah.
Like the UV mapping. I believe we might have even like programmed a software renderer or something like that. I don't remember it exactly, but yeah. It's difficult when you don't yet know what to do.
Well, I
But
know.
I mean, as you said, you kind of need to get to program because and try things, even though like it may not work. Like for example, that example with the that you have now, that it doesn't quite work.
But it's
It's still
closer.
useful because people experience they'll do something. You will know what to do next because you already know what not to do. So,
Yeah, like for example, I now know, and I didn't before, like Friday, that I have to rotate the geometry before I add it to the plane. Otherwise, it also rotates what it scales by. So if I rotate the mesh after I add the mesh and then I scale the X, it will scale the X in a different direction, right? Versus if I rotate the geometry first and then scale it, it will scale it in the same direction as the normal XY plane. I didn't know that before Friday.
Well, I mean, the beauty of my solution is that I didn't do any rotation, so I didn't really have this problem.
That's fair. Oh, right. Interesting. So let me look at your the picture you sent, the first one again. Not this one. This one. Yeah, I thought so. So one thing I'm gonna have to do that you didn't is I'm going to have to offset each Y layer by 1 comparatively. So
You mean by half?
yeah, by half. And
I
that's
can do
not
it,
a
but
huge
I mean,
deal.
trivial.
Yeah, that's not a huge deal. It's just if
I mean, you just give the 2 or just by half, and that's it.
yeah.
You only need to do it for odd layers, but yeah, that's very easy. I would work all down.
All right. Well, I have to go eat food and then go to sleep. And I'm going to try to get more just pure coding done tomorrow. I think in theory, I'll probably be able to start coding about 3 o'clock and be live, my time, local time, so central US. And then I'll have to hop off sometime in the first hour and a half and then leave and then come back. But then I'll be able to get about 12 hours of coding in, not counting breaks for meals.
12 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
let's not burn out. I mean,
It's
a lot.
It is a lot, and I will probably have to stop, take a break, and then come back to it at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, burnout is an issue for programmers. I mean, 12 hours is, well, and it's 12 hours for anything is daunting, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. At some point, my brain's going to get fried, and I'm going to have to pause. But one of the it's a constant fight between taking enough care of yourself that you can continue working the next day and maximizing the amount of time you work, right? But right now, with my current schedule, I'm only programming 4 hours a day. So having one day where I know I can program for 12 and the other 4 days I only program for 4, it doesn't feel like that big of an ask, you know? I'm going to have to take a break at some point, but setting aside that time block makes me feel better about my productivity at least.
You'll see. I mean, you'll see.
Fair enough. All right. I'm hopping off. Thank you very much for teaching me UV mapping today. Peace.